Hello Internet! Welcome to another CIRF report, October 15th, 2015. I'm Chris McClure with your daily CIRF report, where we look for the biggest collective influence that might be affecting the way you think, feel, and behave, and then we talk about how to surf those energies. How about we start with astrology today? And we have some interesting aspects. We have Venus in retrograde, which is going to be matched up in conjunction with Mercury. You know, Venus kind of going backwards in shadow and Mercury going forward, and they're going to meet up today. This is all about intimacy and negotiating, and even finances in there, because Venus controls finance and communication and negotiate, where you talk about navigating the issues of all the relationships. And normally, if we didn't have the collective dreams to kind of guide us through this, which we'll talk about later, we would probably erroneously eliminate the current relationships in this issue. So we would be back to just working on old relationships. The dreams and the collective unconscious is looking at all the relationships, and part of this has to do with the moon. Moon in Capricorn, because moon is you know, inner emotions and inner feelings as well. It's in a sextile, so a very positive kind of aspect to this conjunction, but it's putting a highlight on these emotions. And so all relationships are going to go through some sort of I don't know, inventory is kind of a bad word, but we'll look at the dream words, and that'll really help us out here in a second. But the moon in Capricorn is much more goal oriented, and it doesn't lend itself directly to relationships. I mean, of course, Capricorns can have relationships. I'm not saying that, but they're much more goal oriented, kind of checklist driven. And so one might wonder whether or not that's going to bleed over into, because the moon is in sextile, it's going to bleed over into this working on all the relationships thing. So let's get into numerology. 15, nurturing. But it's a balance. It's a balance between independence and needing someone else. And you know, that actually works out perfectly to what we're talking about in the relationships. Let's go ahead and talk about the dream bot. And this is the collection of dreams. This is the most frequent words today, and of what everybody was dreaming about pretty much last night. There might be a few dreams in there from the weekend. But let's look at the red arrows. Red arrows are niece, quiet, holding, laying, beach, closer. This has to do with relationships. So yeah, we'll just say red is relationships. Orange is having to do with time. So days, dream, afternoon, potential. Potential is forward looking. Younger is both, well, it's neither past nor future, but it's a time comparison. Late, time, the word time itself, and 3. So what we're seeing there in this meme is that it's neither past nor future. It's kind of just a whole smorgasbord of time differentials. So it's all the time. So so far we have relationship and time, and the blue is, well, it was the only negative things in there. Everything else was really positive. Gun, attacks, and opposite. So in there, I'm thinking of kind of conflict. With the red arrows is more of harmony and togetherness and closeness. The blue arrows, which is only 3 of them, but it's more of conflict. So there is a little potential for conflict, unfortunately. I was hoping it would just be all, you know, harmony, but that's not the case. So how do we work with this? We're going to talk about that next. So we saw that the moon is going to probably bring in a little bit of checklist kind of issues with relationships. It's kind of hard to imagine, but in reality, with all these feelings and sensations going on, I think it might be a natural defense towards getting just too feeling and too emotional and all of this. So the one thing that we probably need to do before the onset of today, especially with this influence, is go ahead and do your own checklist in your mind of all your relationships. Kind of sift out the ones that are really at the top, the ones that are really important, the ones that are not only healthy for you and nurturing for you, but also the ones that are helping you move towards your life purpose. And then see whether or not there's things that you could do to enhance those relationships. Are you doing enough in those relationships to maintain them, or any of those slipping? That would be step number one. Step number two is probably to sift out those relationships that are probably the opposite. Either they're harming relationships, or they're unhealthy relationships, or they're just relationships that have stagnated. Maybe one or both people have changed, or these are the relationships that are holding you back from completing your life purpose. These are the people who are holding you back from achieving the things that you need to be achieving in your life. So if you have anybody in that basket, then I would recommend not just, just list those first, but then don't just try to eliminate them. See whether or not there's any issues that are still outstanding from those relationships. Because if there are, and you're trying to ignore them or repress them or suppress them, then you're unconsciously going to be dragging those relationships along as you move towards your life purpose. So I would rather list those kind of negative oriented relationships, put those out there on a sheet of paper, and then write down any outstanding issues that need to be dealt with. And I would go see a counselor or work on those issues directly with that person so that you can move on. And that's a wonderful day to do this because of the Mercury aspect, being able to communicate what's on your mind. You can communicate what's in your soul, what's in your feeling and emotions and solar plexus. You can communicate those pretty easy. So that is the influence. If you enjoyed this today, please consider subscribing, and thanks for your likes and shares. And I've got a new transition. Check this out. Thanks for being here today, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.